in that sense, I understand the move. I'm not upset by the move. I'm actually intrigued by what Nick Fortes provides and could provide.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Captain Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
Bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
We're here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 7th season covering the Rays daily.
So grab your favorite Rays gear and settle in as we discuss some movement with trades. The Rays give up a catcher and they get a catcher in return. We'll discuss how we feel about that. Plus, the Rays finally inked a W on their schedule against the New York Yankees. Hopefully they can keep it up tonight as we have, I'll say jokingly, the cooking matchup, Boyle versus Fried, Boyle versus Fried, if you will. And we'll talk about that and more on today's episode.
Yes, we will. But first, we got to tell you, thank you for hitting that like button, for hitting that subscribe button. The community keeps engaging with each other, and that's awesome to see in the comment boxes. So thank you all for participating. Tremendous game. Nail-biting finish with DeLuca jumping up to save that fly ball from falling. Or that line drive, rather. But let's first talk about the big picture here, and it's that Danny Jansen did the Grandpa Simpson's entrance to the bar, took off his hat, took a little circle, grabbed his hat, and said goodbye, Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
he's gone. 1-year contract, and you ship him off to Milwaukee. In return, you get yourself another catcher from the Marlins. And Nick Fortes, what were your thoughts about this trade?
Well, a couple things. So Danny Jansen traded to the Brewers. The Rays get a prospect in return for that. And then the Rays acquire Nick Fortes from the Marlins and give off a prospect in return for that. So Eric Neander was working multiple phones, I'm sure, to get a deal done. If we're going to lose a catcher, we got to add a catcher from another organization. That's exactly what happened. My first thought, not necessarily on the field, but it just underscores the importance of relationships this time of year at the trade deadline, and having that rapport and camaraderie and understanding that, the other guys, your equals in other organizations, Matt Arnold and Peter Bendix, both former guys that worked for the organization. So I think that that is something that is valued and necessary and needed when you're trying to pull off these deals and trying to thread the needle, if you will. And I know that in the discussions on trades, we hadn't really mentioned Danny Jansen's name all that much. We'd more so mentioned Taj Bradley and Jose Caballero and Pete Fairbanks and Zach Littell. But I mean, Danny Jansen was kind of staring us in the face of, he's on a 1-year deal. I know there's an option, but it's pricey by Rays standards, and you got to figure out what you're going to try to do with that position long term. So in that sense, I understand the move. I'm not upset by the move. I'm actually intrigued by what Nick Fortes provides and could provide. With Jansen, I think we pretty much got about what we expected for him in terms of production. Yeah, we would have liked to see a little bit more, but I think he delivered the home runs, the power numbers that we were seeking. And I mean, depending on the metric you look at, I think Baseball Reference had him at a 1.8 WAR player at this point.
If you're looking at, I don't know if we could get ChatGPT or another place like that to do this analysis, but of all the things that we were complaining about throughout the season, like players like, hey, they're not doing this right, hey, these numbers are not great, Danny Jansen would not come in the podium at all of complaints that we had. I think he would range in the middle of the pack, or trending towards kind of like not being complained about at all. And that tells me that he was actually giving us what we expected. Like, he was right on par, because if he was exceeding those expectations, we would have been praising the heck out of him. And if he was not really doing what we thought he would, then we would have been complaining a lot. I think he was right in the middle. I think he gave us exactly what we thought. Now, I will say, when you look at his defensive abilities, and specifically with the framing, you do wonder if a team that has such talented starting rotation wasn't at all hampered, a strike here or there, with Jansen behind the plate, enough so that they go, let's make a move in the middle of the season. Because you said earlier it was staring us in the face, but we didn't really mention him as an opportunity. And you're right. But I think it's because of that. I think it's because we know that the Rays take a lot of emphasis on having a guy behind the plate that can be there for the whole year. Like, know our pitchers, have that rapport. We don't care if you hit, just that rapport with the pitcher. With Alex Jackson for bleaking,
right.
Stay. So I think that's why we didn't even, mention him as a trade option, because we never thought that they would actually do that sort of move.
Yeah. It's interesting with Danny Jansen, because yes, his fielding run value on Savant is extremely low, talking 4th percentile. He was good at blocking pitches defensively, but that was about it. His framing was in the toilet, his pop time was in the toilet, and his called strikes above average was in the toilet. And I think the Rays' MO historically has been, okay, you have a catcher. If it comes down to, do we want defensive minded or offensive minded, they'll turn to the defensive minded every time, almost to a fault. Like we've seen it time and time again with their track record and history. That's where Fortes comes in, and he actually has some offensive metrics and numbers that I'm excited about. But I think what the Rays are getting in Fortes is an upgrade defensively, which is preeminent to what the Rays are looking for in terms of their pitching staff and what they like to do on that side of the ball. But, Danny Jansen, I mean, we really can't complain about what he provided. There was, I think, there were points where he was cold and wasn't producing, but he found a way to settle in. I think he was hurt for a little bit there, but overall, I think he played 73, 75 games as the number one starting catcher. Really, my biggest issue is, who was your complement to Danny Jansen? And they had to kind of go around from Ben Rortvedt to Matt Thaiss. So, having that great number two, or a really good number two that they could lean on and rely upon, would have been huge. But, I think we said it at the beginning, it was a shrewd move to acquire him. Yeah. And now I think they're making another shrewd move and saying, hey, we don't have you in our 2026 future. Let's get a prospect for that. And then let's find a guy who has some controllability and might have some upward mobility in the Rays organization, and Nick Fortes.
You got yourself a lottery ticket that hopefully pans out with Danny Jansen from the Brewers, and with Nick from the Marlins here. You're getting him from a Double-A outfielder, and so the price wasn't that high. I think it was Matthew was a top 30 prospect.
So the Rays basically got, I mean, if we're just looking at prospect rankings, they gave up Double-A outfielder Matt Etzel, who was ranked 28th, or the low end of the top 30, and then the Rays got, I can't even begin to pronounce his name, but an infielder from the Brewers organization who was also in that same realm. So they still kind of kept the farm system intact. They traded one, prospect ranked 25 to 28 for another prospect ranked in that arena.
That's a fun name to spell, isn't it? Jader Areinamo. All right.
Yeah, I'm glad you did it and not me.
Yeah, 21-year-old hitting 297 in high A, that could turn any which way. So yeah, get your lottery ticket for Danny Jansen. But the fact that Nick Fortes has under team control for the next 3 years, I think that's huge. And a guy that, again, he's hitting 240 this season with a 637 OPS. I'm not saying that he's that guy, but he's been that guy for this season. I think a lot of Rays fans would sign up for a guy who's defensively minded but can still give you a 637 OPS, 240 average. I think we all would sign on the dotted line for that.
And honestly, I think, and we'll talk more about Fortes, but I think the overall value between Fortes and Jansen, it might end up working out where it's pretty much even keel and you're saving a whole bunch of money with Nick Fortes and having some control and maybe, again, building that familiarity with the pitching staff over the next couple of years. We do have much more to discuss on that, but first we have to tell the audience something very important. That is next on the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Game day hue, and that is the hat that both Ulises and I are wearing right now. For Rays fans like me and you and everybody else, this hat hits the mark. Game day hue, they make clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. None of those giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, or anywhere in between. And in addition to hats, I love a good hat on the golf course, but what I like even more on the golf course is gloves, golf gloves, and Game Day Hue has this. It is not just hats. They also have their split shade gloves made for the golf course, which is also the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. I actually have not used this golf glove yet because I admire the look and the color and the leather. I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to get dirt on it. I just want to savor it, if you will. But I will try it out probably this weekend, actually. And you should too. Get the hats, get the gloves, get everything they have to offer. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDay, HUE.com. Let your colors talk because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com, code MLB15.
You mentioned really quickly there with the money saved from the Danny Jansen, although I think they did have to pay a little bit more in order to get that but whatever. They didn't have to pay the whole thing. That little cushion could save in their heads. In our heads, it's like, bro, you got enough money. But in their heads, it's satisfying of like, okay, maybe we can keep Brandon Lau. And we can keep Yandy Diaz. Like that savings could have worked out that way.
If you have to trade Zach Littell and Danny Jansen to keep Brandon Lau and Yandy Diaz, I'm all for it. I'm here for that conversation, that decision making.
I'm honestly, if you need to trade Pete Fairbanks, do it too.
Yeah.
Do it too. I mean, honestly, like even though the bullpen has been a mess this year, I trust the Rays in finding more bullpen arms than offensive pieces. I really do, because that's exactly what they've shown me for the last 2 decades plus. It's just easier for them to do that. They're really good at doing that. So I would definitely even put Pete Fairbanks on that list. But okay, so overall, it seems that we would give these moves, both Danny Jansen leaving and then the prospect Arenamo coming back, Fortes coming in, Matthew coming out, all that, we give it a solid B+, A- move. We like
I think it's a solid maneuver. And honestly, I think there could be more on that over the next couple of days where you're still trying to be competitive this year, but also looking at 2026, 2027 and beyond. And with Nick Fortes, he's 28 years old. He was a 4th-round draft pick out of Ole Miss. He's a local kid as well from DeLand, originally up in Volusia County. So, I think he likes being able to stay in Florida. I think that could be, big for his psyche there. But the big difference, a couple of the big differences is we know that Fortes isn't going to be able to provide the power numbers that Danny Jansen does and can and will. However, what I really like about Fortes's game And again, I mean, we can scoff at the OPS, and the batting average actually isn't that bad, but it's at the plate. At least he's not striking out and swinging and missing. He can work a count. He can foul off some pitches. And, he has I think a decent enough approach at the plate. He really likes to pull the ball. Some video I watched of him, whether it's a pitch inside or pitch outside, off speed, fastball, whatever it may be, he likes taking it down the left field line. And, every once in a while he'll lean into one and get it over the fence. But the big difference maker for Fortes that the Rays probably really value and appreciate is what he's going to be able to do defensively, because his numbers are totally opposite in a good way in comparison to Danny Jansen when it comes to that part of the game.
And for a guy that puts the ball in play as a catcher, you do get worried about, okay, well, this means we're going to see a lot of grounded into double plays because, with the lack of speed from a catcher, that probably could happen a lot. Danny Jansen has 4 grounded into double plays this season. Nick Fortes has the same.
Okay.
So maybe different a little bit.
Caminero.
Yeah, exactly. So no games played are the same, right? Correct. The sample sizes are different. But yeah, there's no Junior Caminero effect coming in and saying, every time he puts the ball in play, it's going to be a double play. So I like it. I like the move. Yeah. I am glad I think this move just tells you where the Rays are. It's not sell. It's soft sell. We're selling some parts so that we can get something back, but we're getting major league talent back, which is exactly what you would hope for. You cannot have a fire sale 2 years in a row and have people care about your team. Right. At least not if you're the Rockies, whatever, the A's, maybe. But in a franchise that has gone to the playoffs straight from 2019 to 2023, you can't do that to them.
Yeah. And let's be honest, nobody's shedding a tear over Danny Jansen. I didn't see any Danny Jansen jerseys out there. And it's quite possible that Nick Fortes is as productive offensively the rest of the season in a Rays uniform as Danny Jansen will be in a Brewers uniform. In fact, and I don't know if this had any indication of, why the Rays cherry picked Fortes, but over his last 30 games, Fortes is hitting 300 with a 328 on base and a 417 slug. He's got a homer, 6 RBI. So he has been really hot his last 30 games, and you hope that's able to continue. But, if you look at what he does defensively, his fielding run value, according to Savant, is in the 78th percentile. Blocks above average, extremely, extremely good. Framing, extremely good. Pop time, extremely good. And he's a guy that he gets out of his crouch and he can make that strong throw to second and get some runners out. And we've seen that time and time again. I mean, just again, go on your own, look at highlights of what Fortes can do. I guess the question for me is, do the Rays see him as the number 1 catcher going forward over the next couple of years? Or is there something else brewing of, maybe, who is it? Dominic Keegan. Maybe he can be that number 1 and Nick Fortes is number 2, or Nick Fortes, he's the number 1 guy until they figure out what it's going to be the next couple of years.
I feel like with Dominic Keegan, he still has time to season in AAA. I believe he's only played 40 games so far, 32 games. Mm-hmm. So 32 games in AAA, you got to let Dom cook at least this whole season. So I don't believe that we're going to see Dominic Keegan, right? So I think this is, they like Thais, they like Fortes. Right now it's going to be like, all right, boys, it's like that Dark Knight scene where the Joker breaks the pool stick into 2 and goes, all right, only one can get a spot here in the thugs. That's basically what's happening. It's Thais and Fortes saying, who is going to be our number 1 for next year?
Right.
And go at it. I think Fortes definitely has the leg up there. but anything can happen. Then for spring training, then you get Dom Keegan in there, you get Logan Driscoll in there. There's like a whole more competition and maybe an acquisition here or there.
Yeah. Maybe they do another Danny Jansen 2.0 with I don't know who's going to be on the market, free agency 2026, but I'm sure you could find somebody on a 1-year deal that has comparable value, if you will.
Obviously, their hope and our hope as Rays Nation is that Dominic Keegan is the truth. And he is that Matt Wieters. He's that Salvi Perez. He's that Yadier Molina. He's that Buster Posey. That is a mainstay behind the dish for years and years to come. But until that happens, you need to have some competition. And I think that's exactly what it is. Nick Fortes, Thais, just get together and let's see what happens.
And again, with Keegan, as much as I love the kid and hope he's successful, there is that very high probability that he is essentially an Alex Jackson, that he can have a 950 OPS in the minor leagues and kill it. And then when he gets up to the show, those major league fastballs are a little bit harder. Oh, the sliders have a little bit more break to them. Oh my gosh, I can't hit this curveball. This guy can throws it wherever he wants to. And then I got to deal with the pitching staff and all the scouting reports and the grind of everything that goes into being a catcher.
And then people just yelling obscenities at me while I'm on deck, and even in my own home field, like Yandy had to hear the other day against his own family. Like it's the whole thing.
Yes.
So to make it into the major leagues is crazy. To stay in the major leagues is absolutely insanity. Yeah. So hopefully that does happen. But overall, we like the trade. I think this is good stuff. Let's move on to what happened yesterday. How about that?
Yes. Nice win for the Rays, beating the Yankees 4-2, thanks to Junior Caminero getting a 2-run homer in the first, Josh Lowe contributing, and then Yandy Diaz putting the cherry on top with a short sac fly in the 8th inning. When you got a guy of Jose Caballero's speed, it doesn't have to be hit that far in the outfield, and a guy that moves like that can score from third. And, it was a little bit concerning where Drew Rasmussen walks in a couple of runs. At that point, the game was tied 2-2, and you're thinking, all right, here we go again. There's no way we can pull away from the Yankees when we get into the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. But the Rays were able to do it. And I know we had been critical of Taylor Walls on Monday's show. Well, he redeemed himself with a very slick stop defensively. That is vintage Taylor Walls. And those are the plays we need to see from him 99% of the time to prove his worth in a Rays uniform.
And especially because you see that play and you're like, man, that's good. And then you see a couple innings, I think it was later on, Anthony Volpe just like completely botch a play. And then I was like, you know what? Let me see what Yes Network says about that play. And then Michael Kay out there going, and David Cohn saying like, well, the boos are raining here in Yankee Stadium, which I don't know why, because that was that was not an easy play to make. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Taylor Walls makes that play with his eyes blindfolded. What are you talking?
Yeah.
It's so defense matters. It really does. But it only matters for you when you see the contrast in other teams. Like if you see Taylor Walls all the time in shortstop, that's going to be your standard. Right. Then you see Anthony Volpe's and you're like, oh my God, other teams have to watch that defense. That's rough out there. And
Pass the diving Volpe.
And Pass the diving Volpe is now the new meme. No, great stop there by Taylor Walls. And I believe this season has been the most Kevin Crash moments I have seen in a long time. Mm-hmm. But we, in this podcast, we try our best to praise when needs to be praised and point out when things need to be pointed out.
Yes.
Praise incoming. Kevin Cash did a fantastic move last night. He saw Chandler Simpson, like we all did, struggling. Defensively, struggled. Offensively, struggled. He just did not have a good day. He was not having a good day. And in his last at bat, what did Cash do? Kiddo, sit this one out. I'm going to put Johnny DeLuca there. It's against the lefty. Feel good. Johnny DeLuca, he gets on base with a little chopper. Very nice. And little did you know, Johnny DeLuca's glove and his speed would get you the last out. Now,
Yes.
did Chandler Simpson make that last one? I want to say maybe that he does, but
Right.
I don't want to find out at the Bronx 4-2 with a man on base. I think that was a great move by Kevin Cash, and he's not like he thought that the ball was going to come to Johnny Luca, but it was just recognizing where you are in the game, seeing that human being kind of having a bad day and saying, no, you know what? You need a clean slate. Johnny, get in there. We get a nice little defensive replacement. We're only up by a couple. Let's do that. And it worked out perfectly. So great job, Kevin Cash and company.
Yeah, it's funny because I think even a guy as talented as Chandler Simpson, young players, they can take what happens to them at the plate out of the field. Just that mental disruption, if you will. And same thing, you make a bad play in the field and it might transfer over to the plate. It can also work the other way. You make a great play in the field and then you're energized and invigorated at the plate and hit a home run, or in Simpson's case, maybe a double or something like that. I thought you were actually going to mention Kevin Cash bringing in Pete Fairbanks in the 8th inning to get the old 4-out save. Try not to leave it to chance. Try to minimize some of the other bullpen disruptions, and he's our horse in the bullpen. We got to give him. We got to get 4 outs here.
Yeah, it worked out. I particularly, I'm not too much of a fan of the 4-out, 5-out save, just because Brian Anderson actually explained this a few years ago, that the amount of adrenaline, of energy that you take into the mound as a closer, you're so used to just like spending it, and in the 8th you take that last out. To be able to build it back up after watching your team hit, you're not really used to that. You don't know how to get up there again. So it's very difficult to be able to be successful in the 5-4 out thing. So I'm always a little bit wary of it. It did work out great, but what I did like, and thank you for reminding me about this, is that Pete Fairbanks, after the game, he said to Ryan Bass, well, we're out here, paraphrasing, well, we're out here basically, whatever we need to do. If it's 4 or 5 outs, I'm all for it. We just need to move as a team. And that comment is so stark to what we all saw last year with Hader in San Diego.
Yes.
I know he was a few months away from getting paid, but he was like, nah. You use me for 3 outs, and the 3 outs you will get. None of this 4, 5 out crap. No.
I don't get comp time for the 4th and 5th out.
Yeah, I'm about to get paid, and I don't want any issues. Which, by the way, Hader, good for you. You've deserved your money. Like, you've worked hard, and nobody else has. Good for you. All I'm saying is that it's really great when you hear that from the player that you're rooting for. That they're up for anything, and they really like it, and they want their whole team to move as a unit. Like, that was just nice to hear. So. Also,
I mean, that's really the only way the Rays can be successful, is having guys that are versatile and willing to be put in any position that the Rays feel will help them win a game. And if you don't play ball and you're not willing to do something, well, you're probably not going to be with the Rays all that long, because it's a sum of the parts approach. Unless your name's, Junior Caminero, then maybe you can get a little bit more away with that. But good stuff there. Hopefully the Rays are able to keep it up tonight. Boyle versus Fried, like we mentioned, I do like the Rays' chances in this one because Max Fried has struggled mightily in the month of July, like near a 7 ERA. But I would not imagine it to be a very high scoring game, and Max Fried is still Max Fried. So anything can happen.
And, Boyle, I'm thinking rookie. Hopefully he does not get too nervous with the lights and the people and the crowd and warming up and all that. Hopefully it all goes well. But I feel like if you're able to take the first 2 from this series, I think, and maybe this is just completely just putting good things out in the open, I think you basically save yourself from a massive sell. I think they're soft selling already. But if you win tonight, you might be telling the front office, hold your horses. No Yandy, no
Yeah.
Bilao. Maybe
It's
let's
amazing how that the complexion can change from being like 2 games over 500 to 500 or a game or 2 under 500.
It's so crazy,
It's a
right?
small window that we're
It's a
dealing with.
162 game season, and it actually all comes down to 8-10 games between the trade deadline. It's
Exactly.
nuts.
All right. On that note, thank you for making Locked On Rays your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Local analysis brought to you on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on the YouTubes or wherever you listen to those podcasts.